After a grueling 6 months of preparation, the mission details were clear, target selected, and the reason fully justified for all on the base. They were about to hit the Russian mob boss of Chicago that was trying to take over Fox old territory. Peter wanted to make a statement to all of the families, mafias, to tell them that there was a new age coming, and there was a new player in the game. One that's purpose was not that of acquisition of power, but of distributing justice to those who evade it, who are untouchable by the law. The Russians in Chicago had a years-long operation of human trafficking going, among other things, and were infamous for their brutality and torture practices, mainly due to the command of their boss, Igor Stachenko. Peter's presentation of the accumulated evidence sparked up fire in the base's heart, and after 2 hours, there was no one in the agency who wouldn't want to nail that bastard personally, figuratively speaking. Even if they had the necessary skills required, they wouldn't have the stomach. Luckily, they had Gargi and Thomas, who had both. The plan was to execute Igor in an underground parking lot, whilst he would be leaving one of his fortress businesses, a hotel, then storm inside the hotel and eliminate as many of his men as possible, whilst trying to locate the holding cells of the girls that were used for sex slaving. Igor was the main target. Therefore, he was to be hit first. Best whilst he was in a car, to minimize the chance of his escape. It's hard to leave a moving car, and a car is quite a large target to hit. And it should be done while he was leaving his private underground parking lot, to minimize the chance of hitting innocent bystanders. The second target was to eliminate any opposition inside his hotel, but otherwise not harming workers or other non-combatants that could be accomplices to the crime. The third step in the mission was to release any sex slaves that could be found before the police arrived, as they would have a much better chance in life, because many of them would simply just be deported, disregarding the fact that they would most likely just be handed back over to the human traffickers in Russia again. Igor's convoy alone would consist of 12 armed guards at a minimum, plus another 15-25 in close proximity to the underground garage. The building itself could have up to 40 more guards. Ever since the Fox incident, the underground as a whole was in full alert mode. Should the resistance prove to be dangerous, Peter would call off the mission after nailing the primary target. Gargi was supposed to be stationed in the long corner of the underground garage, guarding the exit and providing sniper support for Tomas. Tomas would be positioned mid-range and would be first to open fire at the side of the convoy. Peter had access to the underground garage cameras, but only partial coverage of the inside of the building. He was meant to provide real-time intelligence support and had command over the operation, with Violetta overseeing it. This would be the first time the agency would hit more than one target, and at this scale. Everyone was very nervous, despite having Thomas on the team and his previous experience with Fox. Also because of what the success of this mission could mean at this time and place, what it could do to the mob's behavior in general in the whole U.S. The all-hands command was given, meaning medical team, logistics, get them in and out plus supplies, and Violetta were on 24-hour shifts. The mission was engaged. Tomas and Gargi started immediately to gear up in the armory, with Helena offering helping to Thomas with putting his suit on. Of course he didn't mind, even though Gargi sat right next to him and could do the same if needed. Gargi looked at Thomas with a massive smirk, and Thomas responded back with, "What?"
"I didn't say anything."
Gargi continued to grin. Helena didn't say a word, just a brief smile at their interaction before acting professional again. Everyone else, with the exception of Violetta, headed into the garage to be boarded. Somebody from the garage's team had a great idea and asked the team to pose for a picture before leaving for the mission. Peter acknowledged that it was a pretty good idea, and the team assembled with Thomas being put as the centerpiece by Peter himself, to Thomas's great satisfaction. Made him feel like the golden boy. He was truly important now. Then the logistics, transport vans, took the medical team on board, as well as Lubos and Kopp, with extra equipment and ammo, along with Tomas, Gargi, and Peter. Violetta stayed at the base in the command room, and was in charge during Peter's absence, whilst observing everything at the central big screen, featuring all of the camera's views available, controlling what was displayed as the mission's main screen. During the mission, Peter was meant to stay in the command van with Nurse Catherine and Kopp, and to get Thomas and Gargi into the drop-off location, while the second extraction van had Dr. Charlotte, Lubos, and Nurse Helena in it. All eyes were on the main mission screen back at the base. During the ride, close to the destination, Peter started to have little pep talk on the comms, communication channel.
Okay, people. This is it. We know why we're here. We know why we need to do what we are about to do. I know you are all nervous. It's very important that we succeed in this crucial time, and we do it without casualties, our own and innocent bystanders.
Tomas wanted to say something funny, but decided against it in the last second, since Peter seemed very serious, and he didn't want to spoil it for him.
We don't need our names to be known. In fact, we prefer that they are not. But we do need to be heard. We need to make a statement. Where the state fails its populace, we need to step in. We need to make just what is not. Those people think they are untouchable, but they are mistaken. We are going to prove them wrong. This is not about salary. This is about reality, the state of affairs, and us pointing at it.
He took a short pause. It almost looked like he was finished when he spoke again.
Tomas, Gargi, I know that you're good. I know that you can pull this off. I wouldn't even have sent you otherwise. But let's not pretend this will be a walk in the park. Even with your skills and equipment, things can go south very quickly. I want to let you know right now that you will not be left behind if they do. Not while I still breathe.
Short pause again.
Please remember, play it safe. After all, what you do is 10% of luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason for us to remember your names.
Projecting his voice louder over time, and then finally,
Good luck,
Violetta added,
Good luck, team.
on the comms. It was pretty effective. There was hardly anyone in all of the agency's personnel that would not feel pumped up after the pep talk. Thomas looked at Gargi and made a, "That was pretty cool" expression, as he didn't want to talk on the comms to spoil the moment. There was no private comms. All talk and vision was always broadcast to the base's screens for everyone to hear and see. No secrets. Gargi and Tomas both even had POV cameras built into special contact lenses, showing their point of view. In the meantime, they have arrived at the site of the hotel, downtown Chicago. Peter looked back into the van at Tomas, Gargi, and Catherine, raising his right hand showing 5 fingers, as in,
5 seconds left. Get ready.
and then they finally stopped at the sidewall, right next to the entrance into the car park. Thomas put on his face mask and stepped out of the van, heading towards the underground entrance exit. It was about 10 meters away behind the bend of the sidewall, but not before briefly turning towards Gargi as he was stepping out making a bro fist, to which Gargi responded with a fist bump, and then Thomas left in haste. When he was already out, Gargi could not resist and shouted into the comms, laughing at Thomas to push his buttons.
And don't fuck it up, newbie!
Just their usual banter. Thomas mumbled back at him,
Keep speaking to me like that and I'll fuck you up, mister. I'm number 47.
He was referring to the world's best-known hitman character from a popular video game. Gargi didn't understand half of that, but the other half that he did made him laugh out into the comms anyway, guessing what Thomas said. It was good banter. It certainly entertained more than them two in the agency. Lubos particularly enjoyed their banter and was spotted by Charlotte and Helena to laugh his ass off, shaking his head in disbelief at their banter, even during a mission. Tomas arrived at the entrance, first ducking carefully below the guard's booth window to not get spotted, peeking in. Only one guard was present in the guard booth. It was time to test out the KM-2000 knives. Thomas snuck behind the lone guard and inserted the knife just below his chin, close to the neck's vertebrae, easily penetrating all the way up into the brain, avoiding the cranial skull bone for easy entry. It put the guard into a seizure, so in the very next second, the other knife went through the guard's rib cage into his heart, killing him instantly, stopping the guard's violent movements. It went into the chest surprisingly easily.
Thank you, Lubos.
Thomas thought. Peter and Kopp witnessed it personally as they passed by the booth, leaving the area, dropping off Gargi as well after the deed was done. Catherine briefly looking out, shouting at Gargi,
Good luck!
as he disembarked the van. To Peter's disbelief and annoyance, as now he had additional job to find out and corrupt file of all cameras in the area that might have captured her face, compromising them all. But he didn't say anything. More important things were on his mind, and he knew that she only meant well. Now that the guard was gone and his internal booth camera was hacked by Peter just prior to Thomas's attack so no one would get alarmed, Thomas proceeded into the underground garage first. The garage was massive, about 150 meters squared, adequate for the hotel size standing on top of it. The first floor contained Igor's office, kitchen, dining hall, bars, dance floor, etc., and was the only one to be stormed to locate the girls and eliminate the guards. It was unlikely that the slave girls would be held in the 20 stories of hotel floors above, and intel didn't confirm any presence of Igor's guards either. As soon as Tomas entered the underground area, he noted that there were no civilians there. Igor's guard had blocked the entrances to it a few minutes prior until Igor's convoy would be gone.
Perfect.
Tomas quickly advanced 70 meters forward into the middle of the left side of the garage. Igor's convoy was still waiting in the further corner, awaiting Igor's arrival. Gargi entered next. He stayed on the left side of the entrance, exit. There was a large, thick pillar only about 1 meter away from the inner facade. He climbed it like a spider, pressing both of his legs and arms against the inner facade and the pillar, climbing up towards the ceiling that was about 4 meters high. Once Gargi was almost to the top, he fully extended his right leg that was pressing against the inner facade and bent his left leg at the knee that was pressing against the body of the thick pillar, locking him in stationary, solid shooting position with an almost perfect vantage point. Almost, if it wasn't for the thickness of the pillar that blocked his whole left side's vision when Gargi was leaning out on the right side of the pillar, aiming his PSG-1 down the parking lot to test out visibility down his killing zone before retreating back into resting concealed position. This was expected and planned for. It was totally irrelevant as there was pretty much nothing to his left. The convoy route was starting in the far right corner that Gargi had perfect vision of, and headed through the inverted U-shape route and out of the exit that all was on Gargi's right side. He would have had almost perfect vision during the convoy's whole route out of the garage if it wasn't for the occasional support pillars in the way, providing momentary cover for the convoy along the way. The convoy was never supposed to enter the blind spot on Gargi's left side. This is why Peter had chosen the pillar on the left close to the exit, and why Thomas was positioned in Gargi's blind spot on the left side of the underground garage. Thomas would open fire on the convoy's right side as they passed by next to him, getting into Gargi's killing zone directly in front of him for the final straight stretch towards the exit. In the meantime, Peter was closely monitoring what was happening inside of the hotel via hacked-in cameras. He tracked Stachenko's group as they navigated through the bar area into the reception, and then entered through the big double door leading into the garage, heading toward the parked 3 Escalades that were waiting for them. One guard exited out of the parked car, and then immediately opened the doors for Igor that was placed in the center vehicle out of 3 Cadillac Escalades. You could easily tell which person he was, as he was smoking a big cigar and was surrounded by his guards. Stachenko sat into the center back seat surrounded by his guards on both sides and continued to smoke his cigar, making smoke clouds even. When everyone was in, the convoy left and started to make its way around the parking lot towards the exit. As far as the intel showed, only Igor's vehicle was heavily, but only partially, armored. Soon, they were about to leave through and out of the garage. Both Thomas and Gargi assumed their striking positions. A very quick thought went through Tomas's mind. He was thinking that it wasn't that long ago when he felt like a lamb thrown to the wolves. Now, he was the predator. Correction, he was the apex predator. Igor's convoy made final left turn and entered the final straight stretch heading towards the exit, but more importantly towards Gargi and Thomas who were waiting for Peter's command, tension building up. Peter said calmly into the comms,
Hold your fire.
The cars were moving towards the center of the final stretch out the garage. Peter spoke clearly.
Wait. 3, 2, 1. Open up.
The first car of the convoy just presented its right side to Thomas and was perfectly 60 meters ahead of Gargi. Both Thomas and Gargi unleashed on the first car. The driver went down first, thanks to Gargi. Thomas Swiss cheesed the car from its side, killing the guard on the passenger side sitting in the front, and 2 more out of 3 guards sitting in the back. As the driver got hit in the face, his arms jerked, turning the wheel to the left side, crashing the car into one of the support pillars. The car erupted into a small fire on impact. It didn't create a barrier for the center car with Igor as hoped for, and Igor's Escalade started to speed up around the first crashed car. Peter instructed,
Hit the front wheels, Gargi.
There was no need to say that, as Gargi was already on it. He hit the front left tire, but nothing happened just yet. 3 more rapid-fire shots hit into the right one after that, managing to turn the car over on its right side, as the driver was just trying to make a left turn, with the G-loads and full weight of the car being on the right wheels coming out of the previous right turn when evading the first crashed car in the convoy. The Cadillac kept sliding forward on its side due to the momentum turning around 25 degrees off-center to its left. After that, Gargi shot the front windscreen 4 times, and the bonnet another 4 times, without visible effect. As expected, it was well armored there and on the sides, even against 50 BMG. But he had to try anyway. The third car stopped right behind Igor's turned-over Escalade, but before all 5 guards managed to get out, the front guards got sniped by Gargi. The driver got hit in the head immediately upon stopping the car, then the co-driver managed to hastily open his doors and started exiting when he got hit high into his chest at a high angle, making him fall out the doors onto the floor face first, dying, making a gurgling sound whilst slightly twitching. The bullet penetrated both of his lungs left to right, entering just under the left armpit, exiting under the right, deflating them. He choked onto his own blood to death. But lucky enough, the hydrostatic shock turned his lights out instantly. He didn't suffer. The 3 that came out of the back got narrowly missed by the incoming Gargi's sniper fire and took cover behind Igor's turned-over Escalade. There, they got peppered by Thomas's G36 into their backs and sides, splattering their blood all over Igor's car undercarriage and trunk doors.
I thought you said that you never miss,
Thomas said sardonically. Gargi replied with a cheeky smile.
You're right, I don't.
So, what do you call that then?
Thomas continued to banter. Gargi chuckled.
I felt bad for you because I did all of the work so far, so I wanted to land you some easy ones to make you feel better. But I guess it was pointless in the end since you had to spoil it by asking me about it, dummy.
Sure you did, mate. Sure you did.
Thomas laughed back at him. In the meantime, the last living guard of the first car just managed to get out of his crashed Escalade seconds before a small explosion lit the whole interior on fire. To no avail. He too got finished off by a burst from the G36 shortly after. Peter said,
Thomas, start moving toward Igor's car and spray the undercarriage.
Thomas started to reposition. The car still mostly faced straight forward at a slight left angle, with neither him nor Gargi having a clear shot at the undercarriage. Gargi having no chance, only looking at the roof, left side and bonnet of the car. Thomas could see only the undercarriage and the trunk doors, but at a high angle. One of the guards from Igor's car tried to escape through the side door, now facing into the ceiling, as the other side was pressed against the floor. He got hit in the face by Gargi's Heckler & Koch PSG-1 sniper rifle, and fell instantly back into the car, spurting blood out of the bigger exit hole. The rest shielded Igor with their bodies, and told him to stay put. Tomas got in position to spray Igor's Escalade undercarriage. He ran across the pathway to the other side, and a little bit forward, until he was at a 90-degree angle to Igor's car undercarriage. Then he sprayed it, since now the undercarriage was exposed, due to the car being turned over on its right side. It wasn't supposed to be armored too, but it was for sure. None of the 5.56 by 45 mm armor-piercing bullets penetrated inside the car. Instead, massive firework of the ricocheting bullets lit up the surroundings. Thomas asked,
What now?
Gargi answered,
Martha?
That's what he called his custom Beretta .050 BMG sniper rifle that Lubos built for him. Gargi named her after his grandmother. Apparently she was the strongest woman that ever lived, according to Gargi. Solved every and any problem every time.
Just like the Beretta .50 BMG does.
Peter said,
Keep the PSG-1 for now. You guys have company. Igor's not going anywhere.
There were about 20 more guards marching now from the convoy's starting corner towards the crash site. Thomas took cover behind one of the support pillars to the right side in front of Igor's crashed Escalade. He could see the guards shielding Igor inside, and they could see him. Igor looked rather amused by the situation.
Weird.
Then Thomas's attention turned back towards the oncoming guards. The smoke coming out of the first car after it lit on fire got momentarily blown to the left side by a breeze of wind coming in through the exit entrance, revealing the full carnage for the oncoming guards. They instantly spread out and took cover, as opposed to the blind marching in just seconds before. To their benefit, as only one of them got picked off by Gargi. Thomas quickly reloaded a new, full magazine and sprayed it all empty just as quickly in the reinforcement guard's general direction. A storm of bullets was the answer to that, and Thomas got pinned down quickly. But due to the number of surrounding cars, it was rather easy for Thomas to quickly reposition elsewhere without getting noticed. Equally, some of the guards actually got close to Igor's car too without getting noticed. Gargi managed to pick off another two of the reinforcements, with one bullet, mind you. However, now he was spotted, and also pinned by the oncoming fire, forcing him to take cover. He quickly swapped his stance, switching his legs that pressed against the pillar and the inner wall as if doing mount climbers on the floor. This allowed Gargi to start shooting from the left side of the pillar, but now his blind spot was on his right, where Thomas was located. This made sense, as both of them could still cover the whole garage with their vision or fire. Except neither of them had full visual on Igor's crashed car anymore. It was in Gargi's blind spot due to another pillar in his way, partially blocking the view, and behind Thomas's back, as he was now advancing towards the reinforcing guards. Peter couldn't fully see much either, due to the positions of the cameras inside of the garage, and the unpredictably direction-changing smoke coming out the crashed Escalade. What they didn't know was the roof of Igor's Escalade could be ejected in case of emergency. The guards that shielded Igor inside his car ejected the roof and joined with the group that managed to reach the overturned Escalade without getting noticed, and started to take him back where they came from towards the entrance into the hotel, and the other supporting guards while both Gargi and Thomas were engaged in a fierce firefight. Gargi reported the presence of 4 light machine guns among the otherwise fully automatic weaponry of the rest. Peter alerted them,
He's getting away!
As Igor's group came into the camera's field of vision.
What? How?
Gargi changed his stance back and gained visual on them, almost picking off one guard instantly. Thomas said,
I don't see the top door open.
He also turned back towards Igor's car, but as soon as he did that, he almost got hit head high. Instead, a massive chunk of the concrete pillar got blasted off. Thomas said,
What the fuck was that?
50 BMG. I'm on it.
Gargi saw the impact as it happened.
No visual. Have to wait till he shoots again.
Great.
Thomas said in a defeated manner.
We'll have to transition to a ground level. I'm too exposed up here,
said Gargi, and jumped down off the pillar. Roger, said both Peter and Thomas simultaneously. Igor was successfully running away as both Thomas and Gargi got pinned down again by a volley of covering fire coming from the reinforcing guards. Peter calmly said,
Thomas, advance.
There was no time for hesitation, nor did Thomas want to disappoint on the very first mission, so he did, with no regard for his safety. He was in the Apex armor, after all. Purposely, Thomas stopped to utilize the cars as cover and jumped right over them parkour style, pushing forward towards Igor's position. He knew he would get hit a few times, but the armor didn't disappoint. It took 3 rounds, and the shockwave into the body was no problem. It just slightly jerked with Thomas's torso upon impact, but didn't slow him down one bit. Little pain. But as expected, Thomas presented himself as a target for the guards, inviting them to focus fire at him. This brought opportunity for Gargi to start picking them off one by one, as they peeked out of their cover to shoot at exposed Thomas. Gargi got another 3 guards before they realized what was happening and turned their attention towards him again. The first 2 were on Thomas's sides as he passed right next to them, parkouring over the cars. One had what seemed like a Glock 18 pistol with similar haircut to Peter's and got hit high into head. Second wielded modern version of AK-47 and got hit into his center mass. The third was shooting at Thomas from far away at a 45-degree angle to him with M249 light machine gun that had nice optics mounted on it. Gargi got the third guard into his right cheek that immediately exploded on impact, with the pressure wave still traveling through the whole skull, cracking it and mushing the brain inside. He was dead before he knew it. The 249th's mounted optics didn't fare any better. They were in the way and got blasted off along with the guard's right cheek splitting in 2. As soon as the light machine gunner got taken care of, that presented opportunity for Thomas to advance once more, and he even got into vantage position to take shots at Igor's escort that just got reunited with some of the supporting guards. Getting many. dwindling their numbers and forcing them to scatter into the nearest cover, not offering any resistance anymore. About 16 of them, exposing the escaping Igor's group. The two of Igor's group back guards that still frantically shot their sidearms at advancing Thomas had no effect on him. Peter sensed the opportunity to pick off the main target.
Take him down now.
Thomas just rushed forward again, encouraged by the Apex Armor's performance, taking down another 4 guards in the process, even gaining direct visual at Igor. Just as Thomas fully raised his G36 aiming at Igor, it got hit. The assault rifle split in 2 pieces in a shower of sparks before he managed to squeeze out single round. Thomas got sprayed with the shrapnel, but the Apex Armor shined again. It had no effect and just bounced off it. All it managed to do was to jump scare onlookers of Thomas's POV camera and Thomas himself. He stumbled backwards as he got jump scared and briefly fell before immediately getting back onto his feet. Meanwhile, Igor's guard managed to quickly reposition Igor out of Thomas's sight, some supporting guards joining them. Thomas said,
Fuck! Again.
Peter asked,
You okay, Thomas?
I'm not injured, but lost my primary weapon.
Peter said,
Okay. Gargi, did you locate that 50? I can't find it on my monitors.
I didn't see any flash, must be in my blind spot. I'm in his, else I would have been shot at too, for sure.
Unfold your 50 Beretta. There is no more armor shielding them that can take 50 caliber. Try to get the other sniper first. If not presented, focus on Igor and his group. Tomas, stay put for the moment.
Gargi immediately unfolded Martha and got into supported shooting position, his back and right leg leaning against a pillar almost at hip high with his right knee shooting out. Wasn't the most optimal shooting position, and he knew it. Should have just kept his right foot on the ground and bracing forward. But he wanted to rest against the pillar for a support at least momentarily. He had to brace against the recoil in that position somehow. Thomas replied to Peter,
I can just rush forward. They can't stop me in the Apex Armor. Switching to P-30Ls.
Thomas started to advance, and the whole garage lit up again in a storm of fire, some stray bullets even hitting close to Gargi, forcing him to immediately duck down. But he quickly got grounded by Peter. Peter ordered,
Just stay put for now, Tomas. That enemy 50 can still make a hole into our budget. Don't engage unless Igor is getting away.
Peter didn't have to say it twice, as the next 50 BMG round just whistled by and over Thomas's right shoulder, hitting a car behind him. The loud bang that it made was terrifying, not to mention the size of the impact hole in comparison to the other bullets' holes. It made Tomas glad he couldn't see the exit hole. Peter asked Gargi,
Did you spot where the last shot came from, Gargi?
That's a negative.
Okay, meaning enemy sniper should have no idea where you are at either. I think his eyes are on Thomas. I want you to quickly reposition. Maybe you will get more lucky next time he will try it.
Affirmative, repositioning now.
He made a quick dash for it, hoping Peter was right, and the enemy sniper had no idea where he was at, not taking a shot at him. Then he quickly deployed his Martha over a roof of a hot Hatch family car, facing from back to front, standing directly behind the car. Peter was right. Nobody shot at Gargi. In fact, it suddenly became very quiet. All movement stopped for a moment. Even Igor's escort held position behind one of larger SUVs out of the sight of Gargi, or Tomas. Only momentarily, as there was a thick support pillar close to them offering a lot more physical protection, and they decided rather quickly to move Igor behind it in the safety of the provided concealment, compliments of the SUV. It looked like Stachenko's guards likewise got a command not to engage until Thomas was taken down by their sniper, and for a few seconds, the whole firefight went silent. Gargi said,
I'm in a new position with Martha. No visual on target, though.
Peter said,
The police were just notified. We've got 7 minutes max. Speed it up.
Okay, I'll need Thomas to play chicken as a distraction for me again.
Approved. Do it, Thomas.
Great. Let me guess. Get into the open so I can get shot at with the big fucking scary gun again, huh?
Thomas said sarcastically. Gargi chuckled.
No worries, Apex can take it. I'll try not to miss.
What if I get it in the face?
Gargi continued to grin.
You won't, you're too fast, right? But if you do, I promise I will find the best mortician to make you presentable again for an open coffin.
They continued their bantering as usual.
Just do it. We are running out of time.
Peter said firmly but calmly. Thomas rushed towards the central pathway to cross from one side to the other. With no cover at all, he should be a tempting target. He began to cross to the other side when he felt something fly by. Then shortly after, almost instantly, he saw a flash from the barrel of the 50 about 50 meters ahead at 9 o'clock. Thomas managed to get to the other side unscathed, a testament to his speed. The sniper just couldn't react in time to hit him. Thomas yelled out,
Did you spot him?
Gargi did spot the sniper, but he got surprised and outflanked by two groups of Igor's guards simultaneously. They opened fire at him from both sides, not giving Gargi a chance to take the shot at the enemy sniper. At least the close-by support pillar to his left offered some cover, and Gargi utilized it very quickly as he frantically switched from Martha to MP7 submachine guns. Thomas saw what was happening and rushed back to help Gargi. Bullets were flying everywhere, hitting cars, pillars, the floor, and even the ceiling. It was a display of spectacular firepower. All of that was just a diversion for Igor's escort to start moving towards the exit door once again while Thomas and Gargi were both distracted. Not for long, though. Both of them were skilled gun kata masters, and at that distance, they almost instantly neutralized both flanking groups. No problem. Thomas on Gargi's left side, Gargi on Thomas's right side. But not before Thomas having to first gun kata his way back to Gargi, ignoring all cover, and purely relying on the apex armor if his gun kata fails him. In one instance, even parkour jumping in between a group of 5 guards that were engaging Gargi at first, then even jumping onto their bodies like he successfully did at Fox Place previously, using them as platform for the next body jump, whilst pushing them off, forcing them to lose their balance, disabling their ability to shoot, while Thomas was shooting simultaneously with left and right arm at 2 different targets to clear them as fast as possible. It worked flawlessly again, and soon he found himself back at Stachenko's overturned escalade, where 3 flanking guards took cover behind but got blasted away anyway. There was also 1 dead guard leaning against the 3rd escalade in Igor's convoy, and 1 more in open space still alive but visibly injured struggling against pain, previously already shot by Gargi, but they posed no threat or opposition anymore. Thomas joined both his PL-30's pistols in the same direction this time around, as they all stood in front of him and behind the cover of Igor's escalade, and the blasts that came out of both joined barrels with Thomas's squeezing out shots as fast as he could made it look like he must have had some sort of a cannon in hands. 2 seconds later, all 3 were dead in volley of bullets that lit up the car too. Thomas joined up with Gargi soon after, with each covering each other fighting almost back to back, as the guards valiantly kept coming in on them despite of their losses and their opposition seemingly being unstoppable. Soon, Gargi was forced to switch into his secondaries, 2 H&K MP7 submachine guns. German, of course. Lubos modified, of course. He still resorted for the most part to only utilize precision burst fire mode to conserve his ammunition, true to his sniper nature. As the guards' bodies started to get shredded by Gargi's rapid fire of the 4.6 by 30mm MP7 caliber, and torn by the larger 9mm caliber of Thomas P30Ls, Gargi almost took 150 round to his upper right chest. The bullet flew by so close to him that he could feel the pressure wave traveling behind the bullet. He was the target of interest now. Gargi quickly switched back to Martha and tried to retaliate back at the sniper when
Igor's getting away,
Peter said, still calm, still collected. Gargi spotted Igor's escort and took a shot at them instead of the sniper just as Peter said that. He managed to hit one of the guards in his neck. Gargi would have seen the guard's head shooting into the air, followed by a blood geyser out of his shredded neck covering Igor's whole group in blood, shocking them and forcing them to hit the deck, if it wasn't for the return fire of their sniper hitting a pillar close to him. It must have been in the sniper's way. Knowing the 50 BMG round wouldn't go through, the sniper still took the shot anyway, and a shower of rock pieces blasted out of the pillar, hit forcefully into Gargi's face shield. It was okay. It was designed exactly for that purpose. Tomas witnessed that, and then he saw Gargi about to try to retaliate at the sniper again. Worried that Gargi may get shot with the next 50 BMG round, Thomas decided to play chicken for him again. He dashed across the completely open central pathway again after picking up an AR-15 assault rifle off the floor just moments before that. Tomas was right. The sniper took a shot at him instead, as he was an easier target, while Gargi managed to shoot the enemy sniper into his face with Martha, evaporating the sniper's head above his bottom lip as it exploded in a cloud of blood into all directions, painting red and redecorating everything around with bits of brain matter and cranial bone. It came at a price, though. As Thomas was dashing across playing chicken for Gargi, he wasn't fast enough this time. The shot hit him in his left shoulder, which resulted in a mist of fibers ejecting out of the hit location into the air. The force of the round turned Tomas's whole body around on impact, forcing him to lose his footing, as well as losing his grip on the AR-15 with his left arm, and fell to the ground almost completely on his back as he got twisted by the shot while falling. Instantly, Thomas managed to get back onto his feet, grab the AR-15, and hide behind cover on the other side, then instinctively let 2 shots out of the recovered AR-15 in the general direction of the sniper. To no effect, as he was already dead, killed by Gargi. Thomas said,
God damn it, that hurt.
the pain resounding in his voice, just as Gargi said.
Got him!
Peter asked calmly.
Thomas, status?
Uninjured, I think. I've got full shoulder mobility, but it hurt like hell, possibly a partial fracture.
Peter said.
Understood. Advance to the primary target.
Igor's group panicked once their sniper's head got blown off. The remaining guards rushed Igor towards the exit in haste, disregarding possible exposure. It was smart, really, the best thing they could have done in a situation like that, as there were only 2 more guards covering their escape. Thomas quickly took care of them with the AR-15 as he was closing in, while Gargi reloaded for explosive rounds and took 1 shot at Igor's group. He took his time with it, calculating the best impact zone. Peter almost ordered Gargi to take the shot already, as he was watching Gargi's POV camera, but he trusted him and didn't. The shot went through 3 pairs of car side windows, then penetrated 1 more side window of the 4th car, before finally hitting its inner side of the driver's door, because of the bullet traveling at a downwards angle, just as Igor's group was passing by the 4th car. The blood splatter that appeared on the opposite wall behind Igor's group following the impact foretold a successful hit. The shrapnel coming out of the doors, plus the round itself, hit the group. It was like a massive shotgun round made out of shrapnel. It completely annihilated them, turning them into shredded meat. Thomas quickly closed his distance to confirm that the primary target was down. Guards were dead, and Igor was close to it. They shielded him properly till the end. Igor was laying on his back dying, looking directly at Thomas, wishing that he would have met him earlier to be better prepared to save some face. Maybe even injure the fucker, but still grinning at Tomas regardless. 2 reasons of why. First, for years, Igor thought that the Russian mob was getting soft and weak, not really having a proper adversary to keep them sharp and on point. Now there was, and he was glad to see many of his guards not panicking in action, resisting valiantly even when the odds were clearly stacked up against them, rushing headstrong into their doom regardless. Igor thought that the whole Russian mob family will certainly grow stronger over time thanks to this new adversary. Before, with the way things were going on upstairs, trying to put brakes onto violence and budget cuts onto manpower, Igor thought there was a real chance that the Yakuza or Italians, or even the Triads may try to overtake them as the leading mafia family, not just in the Chicago, but perhaps the whole U.S. soil. Granted, if they managed to get rid of their U.S. godfather in New York, Ivan Velichenko. The only other family head that he respected and knew would escalate things quickly after his death. He too was just waiting for excuse to get approval directly from Russia to ramp up their manpower and show of force, just like in the old days, and no one would even think of possibly making a move on them. They all would have to make a pact against them to stand a chance, but still without the guarantee that they could win, and thus, nobody did anything that would risk stepping on the toes of Russians, and nobody would think of joining forces with others to change the status quo either. That threat didn't exist until recently, with many years in succession of their demilitarization policies coming from upstairs. He didn't mind that they wanted to reduce the level of violence. In fact, he wanted to bring it down to absolute minimum necessary himself. but he didn't like that they wanted to achieve it by reducing the size of the stick that they are carrying. In fact, he knew that the stick needs to be bigger than now, for people to obey, and there will be no violence needed. All would fear. All would obey, including their competition that always watched them closely as hawks and waited for opportunity to pounce as soon as presented. He wanted the opposite. Bigger stick, more manpower, more training and better equipment. But tell it to the accountants that are always looking for their next performance bonus. When you can't become more financially efficient by brains, you simply take from what is already provided to others, and certainly necessary, then call it more efficient. Never mind, it is more unsafe. Why would you care that eventually this would bring doom to all? When you already collected your quarterly bonuses and will jump the ship at first sight of sinking. If only the superiors above could see it the same way, instead of thinking they are making more money themselves. Oh, how Igor wished that something would happen. That he would get to see action again, even preferably costing his life in the process. And so, as he laid on his back looking at his assassin, he was glad and happy, never wanting to grow old and weak in the first place. He was a warrior, and death in the field was his highest desire for many years now, already giving up the hope that it will ever happen. He might have not fought back this time because he welcomed his fate, but his people that he trained and chose personally did, and he was glowing to see them in action. He was proud like a dad of his sons, as they all chosen the same. Death before the humiliation of failing him, even if some were momentarily cowering in fear when staring death directly into its eyes. Didn't matter. None run away. All kept fighting, and there were still many more that surely will take revenge for his death. It was perfect, everything he ever wished for. And second reason, because he didn't lose his humanity fully along the way. The part that remained was glad it was finally over. Glad he didn't get away with it and in essence, paid for his sins with his life, redeeming himself in his own eyes. You see, Igor wasn't always ahead of the Russian mafia in Chicago. He was a florist, once upon a time. A gentle, law-abiding soul that was raised by a saint, according to his own words. His dad died when he was just 6-year-old, and the pressure of providing and protecting him in the hostile Chicago's environment fell alone onto his mom, Nastya. She did what she could whilst not resorting into prostitution, as many others did, and chose hard manual labor in a factory instead. But Igor could keep his head high up no matter how poor they were when facing his peers as a child. It was certainly enough, despite of him not being able to get a proper education and instead inheriting his mom's passion for gardening. Eventually, becoming a self-taught florist successful enough to allow his mom Nastya to finally retire, not destroying her already wrecked body by the heavy physical labor any further. Once retired, as part of her everyday's morning routine when she ran into the local stores to get some groceries, Nastya passed by Igor's stand, and he always kept the best flowers of that day exclusively for her, as a sign of his eternal gratitude. She, as the good saint that she was, once she finally could extend her kindness onto others in her community and help them in tough life situations, did it at her first opportunity. Every day, once she bought the groceries, it wasn't just for them two. She always went to visit all known places of the homeless people to drop off some food for them too. One day, when things turned rough again as the flower stall of her Igor wasn't making as much money anymore, she did her usual run anyway to let her people know that this time she sadly has nothing for them due to her own situation. But as soon as things will hopefully turn around again, she will return, and not empty-handed. One of the homeless people, Alexei, a former neighbor of theirs whose luck run out around 3 years prior when he lost his job due to redundancy in the company that he worked for, and as a result lost his former place never recovering since, didn't take the news well. He thought that he got finally abandoned by the last person who seemed to care about him, and perhaps in a momentary act of rage more so than anything else, used the knife that he kept for his protection on poor Nastya, stabbing her in a full public sight, then running off the scene once learning that she indeed had no food or money on her, vanishing. Police couldn't find Alexei even after many weeks passing. If truly looking for this unimportant person in the first place, and Igor decided to do what most Russian people in their Chicago's community did when seeking justice, he turned to a local mafia boss, Nikolai, for help. Igor had nothing to offer in return, but with his mom gone now, he offered the best flowers of each morning for Nikolai's wife instead, for as long as he can stay open. Nikolai stated that Igor's gesture of goodwill, even though welcomed, was unnecessary, as he himself was saddened by the news of his mom's murder. A well-known Samaritan in their community even to him, already preparing things on his own accord once learning that the police lost interest, out of respect for his mom. He promised to Igor that Alexei will be found, and that justice will be delivered. Igor asked him for another favor, not because he wouldn't trust him, but because he knew Alexei personally for years, even taking care of him when he was at his lowest, and felt it was like a stab in the hearth, that he wouldn't have peace until it will be him taking Alexei's life with the very knife that he used to kill his mom, Nastya. Nikolai agreed under one condition, that perhaps one day he will ask him for a favor in return that cannot be refused. Igor also agreed. Alexei was found not long after, and Igor found his peace. A year has passed when Nikolai came back to him to return the favor. 2 school-age girls got sexually attacked and killed in their community. Perpetrators found hiding in a motel. Nikolai explained to Igor that police is currently breathing down his neck due to unrelated things, and that all of his trusted people are closely monitored and followed by the police at the moment. But, since he already promised justice to the grieving family that came to him seeking justice, he wanted Igor to return the favor and take care of this matter of honor for him instead, as the police certainly didn't follow him. Igor delivered without a hesitation, knowing what they did, and in the process, meeting the grieving family who welcomed him back a hero once the deed was done, including the older sister of the deceased girls that became his wife the following year. Then Nikolai got accustomed to come back to Igor again every time that he needed someone with a low profile, impressed by his reliability and confidentiality, until Igor himself became over time a high profile to the local police. But at that point, Igor's family was already well off, greatly rewarded by Nikolai for his services, and with a reputation that nobody would dare to cross him sideways, or his family. When Nikolai came to Igor for the first time with a target that wasn't a delivering of justice, but instead, it was blatant enforcement of Nikolai's will. It was too late for Igor to back down, as he knew it would mean certain death not only for him, but also for his family, with wife and 2 kids, depending on him. You say no once after what you already did for Nikolai and know about the family, you can never be trusted again, and will have to be get rid of before you certainly will sing to the authorities, looking for protection and amnesty in exchange for information that would lead to arrests or no deal. So he obeyed Nikolai, and again, and again, and again, until killing came easy for him, natural, each time earning him and his family riches. It simply paid off. It was as simple as that. Either a great lifestyle for him and his family, or a certain death. Not a hard choice to make, really. Nikolai called him a natural killer, his best man, over time his second in line, and sure enough, when Nikolai passed away due natural causes, it was Igor who took over the Chicago's Russian mafia family. Soon after, Igor earned his reputation as a ruthless man, ruling even more so with an iron fist than Nikolai before him, his ambition being to become the godfather of the Russian mafia, one day taking over all of the heads of Russian mafia bosses in the USA. Why? Because he didn't lose his humanity along the way completely. That was something that nobody knew about Igor, except for his wife Katerina. Certainly wasn't expected either, as Igor seemed totally unfazed by violence altogether. But it was true. On some level, all the violence was bothering him indeed. He just couldn't afford to express it on the outside. Igor felt that he had no choice but to show no weakness in the position that he had found himself for the sake of his family and the sake of their community. He knew that he became a monster along the way and felt ashamed of it, even tormented by it. But there was no other way but to go forward, unless he was at the very top, and then perhaps he would be able to scale down the level of violence that was expected, if unnecessary in his opinion. For the most part, it was necessary in his opinion, and he also did a lot of good for the community in the process too, to keep the scales in balance. It wasn't just the rule of terror, but certainly it had to be the rule of terror for those who dared to oppose his new family, his new children, that he considered every member of the family that he personally had to approve to be accepted in, and they all were primarily trained to serve their community, to give justice where it was ignored by the law of the state. No women or children to be harmed unless being the direct perpetrator were his rules. Should anyone innocent got hurt due to reckless violence even whilst performing enforcement, the punishments were harsh, in extreme cases even death sentence. When it came to the enforcement, in Igor's mind, he served a real service instead of the fake ones by the states. You didn't have choice to not have insurance for your car either by the state's law, but it was essentially useless when something really happened to you. It was just legal theft, nothing more. At least with his enforced protection, it was a real protection and a guarantee of swift action to those who dared to offend him by acting against people who paid for his protection. Whether they wanted it or not, at least it was real. Those who opposed, or perhaps just been new into the area not understanding how things were being run there, needed some help to understand. There was no way around it, else it would made him look weak in the eyes of others, undermining his authority, and thus his ability to do business, to be able to put bread on his table for his own family and those working for him. Violence was done, murders, torturing, sometimes by Igor himself. He was like a junkie who knows that what he's doing is wrong whilst destroying him and yet likes his next fix too much to stop, nor does he ever plan to stop. He grew to like his power, as it does corrupt the soul. It was only at night when working late hours alone that his consciousness sometimes did creep up on him. Whatever remained of his lost humanity reminded him for whom this all started, and that his mom Nastya would be certainly ashamed of what he had become seeing him now. What he had personally done. The older he got, the more it bothered him, to the point of thinking of committing suicide. After all, over time his wife Katerina grew torn between the man she loved and the man he became, tormenting her equally. Had he not still given her every morning the best flowers he personally grew and selected, reminding her of who he once was, and at least in part still was, she would have left him long time ago. Igor admitted to himself that Katerina would have been better off without him, finally ending her torment. And it would have been his chance to maybe over time become someone that she could possibly miss. As we all tend to remember those who are already gone in ever brighter light as time passes, everything bad be damned. His kids were adults too by then anyway, not needing him anymore. Having their own fully legitimate lives, distancing themselves from their father but sorted out for their lives. Occasionally even using their name to their benefit, like when his son Anatoly applying for a contract and initially losing it, before letting known who his father was, and winning the competition, being awarded the contract in the end to develop a new type of propulsion engine for planes. His passion. Or when his daughter Alla was looking for a new house with her newlywed husband, finding an occupied estate of a very rich man and his family, not taking no for an answer to whether the estate is for a sale. The rich man's family didn't want to sell it, but couldn't say no to Igor's daughter that even paid double the price that the estate was realistically worth, on top of granting them a favor from her dad Igor, as he owed them now, something that couldn't be put price on. That kind of power of having the ability to erase anyone you want without a consequence, or to not being able to say no to you without a consequence, to whatever it is that you want, was priceless. So, they agreed, in the end, despite of the sentimental value of their home, that they build themselves over many years into what it eventually became. A luxury estate with no par in hundreds of miles in any direction. It's not like they got robbed after all, and the alternative was unthinkable. Whatever it would have meant as a consequence. They're certainly understood that the state wouldn't be able to keep them safe against people like Igor. It wasn't worth it trying to go against the flow of the river. Some things in life, you simply have no choice but to accept and adapt to it. It could have been worse. So, Igor's kids had to creep back to their father once in a while to ask for a favor too. No matter how much they despised him as a man, what he had become. It was their father, and they possessed that kind of power over him, whilst he had the power to bend the world to their needs whenever asked for. It is very hard indeed to not abuse your power when you have it and things don't go your way, when all it takes for you is to simply use it, whether you want it or not. But the point was that it all would have vanished if he committed suicide. As much as the idea of ending his own life was ever more appealing, it would have been perceived as admittance of wrongdoing, undermining the whole family and what it really represented. The curtain would have fallen. The charade would have ended. The king would have admitted that he knew that he was a tyrant but was too weak to own it. Meaning, his family would have lost all privileges and protection, might even be made an example of depending on the Godfather's decision. It never happened before. On the other hand, he loved to use and show force. He was still a warrior at heart. And should he die in action instead, his family would have kept protection indefinitely, along with all of the privileges and fortunes that come with it. So, Igor waited and hoped to be challenged and slain in action to finally find his peace and unburden his wife and kids. But despite of his Russian family as a whole getting weaker in the last years in his own opinion, nobody dared to challenge his authority on his home turf in Chicago in decades. He was too feared, his people too well trained and too loyal. Any action against him perceived as a certain death sentence. Until now, apparently. So, he grinned at his killer in his last moments, staring right back at him as he towered over him, even taunting him. For he knew who the real winner was, and who was the real loser here. Predicting that one day his assassin that came here, doing justice by violence as he once did, will most likely find himself in the same situation someday down the road. Except that his assassin might not be as lucky as he is now, dying as a warrior in combat instead of a frail, tormented man in his bed. Not to be allowed to keep his face and thus his family safe, whilst leaving a legacy behind. That one day might even mean that enforcement would be unnecessary altogether, as the family would be officially in total power, and thus, their will legal and accepted by all. Things he laid groundwork for personally, as all of their Chicago's branch business was legitimate, except for cases when they wouldn't take legal no for an answer. Violence has the power to mend all things after all. Indeed, a hard thing to fully let go. And for the sex slave girls they kept at hand, when money played no role, no more for those who had seemingly infinite access to, nor had to fear his power, as they had a lot more than Igor himself. He had to send a woman to get control over them. Each girl was a guaranteed exclusive access to, not spoiled by others prior, and a completely discreet service without the knowledge of their wives or anyone else for that matter, including Igor, in exchange for favors and access to their power. It was a necessary evil that he was not proud of. As Igor laid on his back dying, looking at Thomas that stood over him, he managed to say in a weak voice while still grinning,
"Hey man, nice shot."
Then he died right after with a massive grin now immortalized on his face forever. Thomas answered,
Yeah, nice shot, but not mine.
Too late. Igor was already dead and didn't hear it.
Crazy Russians.
Thomas thought to himself. Gargi was already on his way towards Thomas to join him in storming of the ground floor looking for the girls, Martha and SPG, one both already folded on his back. He came up to Thomas.
Is it just me, or did the whole thing look quite amusing to him?
Thomas said, clearly referring to Igor. No one replied, though, including Gargi, to whom Thomas turned to asking the question, but it was meant at everyone, since everyone at the base was surely watching. After a short silence, Thomas continued.
Nice shot.
Peter joined him.
Yeah, nice shot, Gargi.
Just doing my job.
Gargi said formally. Peter said,
Okay, we should still have 5 more minutes before the police arrive. Enter the reception area and then proceed towards Igor's office and then into the VIP area. You know what to do. Eliminate any opposition and try to locate the girls.
Thomas threw away the AR-15 and pulled out the twin P-30Ls again. It was time for close quarters.
On the other hand, 1 moment please. Just want to make sure we don't walk into an ambush or area full of civilians. Stand by.
Peter commanded. Both Thomas and Gargi knew what to do next, and assumed their positions on either side of the big double doors leading into the reception area, waiting for Peter's command to proceed with the entry. Thomas on the left, Gargi on right side. It became momentarily quiet, giving opportunity to Gargi to open up with some more banter to calm the nerves and release some stress.
You ready for this?
Gargi turned his head towards Thomas with a cheeky smile.
Oh, I'm ready as one can be.
Thomas answered back, expecting stronger Gargi's banter next.
You don't look ready to me. Just saying.
Gargi pushed some more, but not quite delivering yet. Thomas just chuckled and tried to ignore it, but then,
You know, if you're ready, then feel free to join in at any time, my dude. I'm tired of doing all of the work myself. I didn't know you will be such a drag when we signed you up. It's kinda disappointing, to be honest with you.
Gargi roasted him even harder.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was busy catching all of the bullets for you, so that your candy ass doesn't get blasted off right away. It doesn't look to me like you can take a lot, and you certainly don't pay attention to what is happening around you. What kind of sniper are you? A bloody muppet has more spatial awareness than you.
Made Gargi and Lubos to laugh out audibly into the comms. But more people in the base listening enjoyed their banter, definitely relieving some of the tension and stress accumulated so far. In the meantime, Peter and Cop were long gone couple blocks away from the hotel. Their job of deploying the team was done. Now they had to make sure avoiding compromising themselves but stay within a minute of driving distance in case of emergencies as a backup. It was Lubos' team job to extract the team after the deed was done. Peter could easily observe and command the mission from a safer distant position. Peter completely missed the whole exchange between the Gargi and Thomas, as he was too focused on quickly doing his double check through the hacked-in cameras of what was happening inside of the hotel, but not the next part of the banter that was aimed at him. Thomas asked Peter sardonically,
Peter, can we just blow up the convoy the next time or something? I know you wanted to avoid unnecessary damage, but holy hell, this place got blasted anyway.
There was no response to that, but you could imagine that it did annoy Peter, almost like pouring salt into the wounds. Gargi decided not to say anything either, although he did agree with Thomas on that point. Some people back at the base found Thomas's remark funny. Even Dr. Charlotte, sitting in the second van, got a grin on her face for a second before recovering quickly due to the seriousness of the matter. No wonder, upon looking at the state of the underground garage. There was hardly any car, wall, or support pillar that did not have several holes in it. 2 wrecks and 1 car on fire producing thick black smoke. Bodies everywhere, some torn to pieces. It looked like a war zone. Everyone in agency hoped that the resistance inside of the hotel would be rather negligible in comparison, for the sake of bystanders, if nothing else. The carnage inside of the garage was enough to give one nightmares for life. As a response to Tomas's comments, Peter almost barked into the comms,
Advance.
Thomas could tell Peter didn't appreciate it one bit, and took the banter the wrong way, making a "oh shit my bad" face. But because of his mask, it went unnoticed anyway. But in reality, Peter reacted the way he reacted to Thomas, because of the 30 seconds or so he wasted checking something that he thought he should have already checked prior, annoyed with himself. The time was very precious, and every second lost meant less time to find the girls in already very limited time span. That should have never happened, but the action was so fierce and quick, he barely managed to keep up with the immediate needs of spatial awareness during the highly stressful search for the enemy sniper that posed real danger to his team. Never mind keeping in check what was also happening on the inside of the hotel at the same time. 2 highly mobile and engaging in constant combat operatives on his team proved to be a great challenge to handle. A lot harder than when it was just Gargi. He nearly opted out on skipping the hotel check initially, but then decided that safety of his team and public in general is of more importance than finding the girls, sacrificing the time in the end. That is the real reason why he reacted the way he reacted to Thomas's banter. He was already annoyed with his failure to handle it all, when Thomas sarcastically pointed out another of his failures. It was just the wrong time, really.
I'm not alone anymore. I have a team, I have the best equipment, I have the best medical care, I have a new family that took me under their wing. I'm unstoppable. At least I thought so, until it turned out that I'm the weak link in the chain. I have seen too much death. It changed me beyond all recognition. I can't do this anymore. I needed out long time ago. Now I would rather live and let be. But every time I have had enough, every time I was sure this is it, no more. Every time you pull me back, push me in the right way. What did you think was going to happen?
I wanna see you choke and die. Swallow up your dreams. All alone in the midst of rage. Choke and die. Swallow up your dreams. All alone in the midst of rage. What is it you want me to tell you? I'm not the failure. I would rather live and let be. But you came with the right kind of threat to push me to let you. No, you can't intimidate me. You did disrespect me so clearly.